There are nearly 20,000 murders annually in the United States.
Perhaps it's the weather, but the Pacific Northwest has become the notorious home of serial killers and bizarre crimes.
We're here to discuss those murders,
To try to understand the motives,
respect and remember the victims.
and explore the humanity of it all.
I'm Emily Rowney.
And I'm Alisha Holland.
And this is Murder in the Rain.
We've all seen those Facebook stories of a lost memory card being found with vacation pictures. The person that finds it posts the pictures in hopes of finding the rightful owners. The post goes viral, ends up on Good Morning America, and the subjects of the photos gets their memories back. This actually happened just a couple weeks ago. A card was found over at Multnomah Falls, and
I
had
saw that.
wedding photos.
I believe I shared it on my own Facebook.
I'm sure you did, because everyone did. I couldn't scroll through it being like, okay, we get it. Anyway. I don't know if they were actually found or not. I'm assuming they were, because everyone saw those pictures. People aren't so quick to pass over an SD card lying on the sidewalk. You want to take it home, find sweet pictures of Nana and the grandkids, find the family, and be their angel. Now imagine you did that, but instead of Nana or a wedding, you found horrific images and videos of someone being murdered. That's exactly what happened to a citizen just trying to do well in Anchorage, Alaska. I would like to start by saying I recognize that this is not my story to tell, but I am lucky enough to have a platform to share these stories that, as you'll soon hear, are not heard enough. Late just this last September, a woman was walking down the street when she found a memory card on the sidewalk at the corner of Fairbanks Street and 13th Avenue in Fairview, Alaska. She went home and popped the card into her computer. What she found were images straight from a horror film. She had found an actual snuff film. The memory card contained 39 images and 12 videos, all from a hotel room, which made the label on the card, Murder at Midtown Marriott, make a lot more sense. The woman made a phone call and turned the card into authorities. Police then went through the images to find a story of assault, torture, and murder. A young Alaskan Native woman was naked on the ground, being beaten, throat stomped, and more by an older white male with an unusual accent. As authorities pieced together the story being told by the photos and videos, it is one of a woman being beaten and abused before being strangled, but not to death. Strangled to the point of unconsciousness while the man said, "Just die." Then she would wake up and he would start all over again, beating and strangling. At times, the killer was even laughing. Then the end. She was strangled until she died. The only lead police had was the voice. The voice was familiar and distinctive. It was a strong South African accent that police recognized from an unrelated case they were currently working on. On October 2nd, mere weeks ago, the police were called when a body was discovered at the side of the road. The female body was found at the bottom of a hill next to some train tracks off a main highway near Beluga Point, Alaska, which is about 20 minutes southeast from Anchorage. The woman had been in the elements for about a month. It took until October 10th to identify her, but eventually her name was released. The body was that of 30-year-old Kathleen J. Henry. She was an Alaskan indigenous woman. The coroner found that she had been beaten and strangled. Her time of death was consistent with the images on the SD card, which were created September 4th through 6th. With police agencies working together, they were able to come to the conclusion that the woman in the videos and images was the same woman whose body had been found. Kathleen J. Henry had been living in Anchorage, but was from the tiny town of Eek, Alaska. And when I say tiny, I mean microscopic. The population of Eek, and I'm hoping I'm saying it right, it's EEK, so Eek.
Sounds about right.
Is only 474 people.
Oh, wow.
And in 2019, they got their first taste of running water.
Oh my gosh.
So it is isolated and small. Eek's population is 97.1% indigenous persons. Kathleen was a tough woman who wasn't shy and was proud of her accomplishments. While she did go to jail for a short time, she took that opportunity to earn her GED. Her final Facebook post from August 29th read, "I'm tough Alaska chick since 1997 until present. Keeping up with the Kardashians can be mine for life." She included the very, I don't know what, not ironic, but hashtag killer and chiller. Some earlier posts hinted at a difficult past that she overcame. Quote, "I'm not a con artist and I know best not to get married. I'm divorced and excited each day and night, even though there may be a time and place when I act as if nothing ever existed. I had 7 boyfriends and 1 ex-husband. I left because I might end up disabled by one of the deadly men I had during a relationship, and here I'm tough Alaska chick." Kathleen considered herself a tomboy and her favorite season was winter. Yes, winter in Alaska.
Man.
So she was pretty tough. She was, as she said, a tough Alaskan chick, as proven by her self-defense attempts seen in the videos. At one point, she is seen scratching at her attacker's wrists in efforts to get him to stop. Police now had a homicide investigation, but if it hadn't been for the discovery of the SD card, they would be starting at 0. Instead, they had the time, place, and means of her death, along with video of the man that had done it. It was a separate investigation, one of which there isn't any information available as the case is so fresh, that a detective was able to put a name to that distinctive accent. That was when they brought in Brian Stephen Smith for questioning. Brian Smith was an immigrant from South Africa that had just become a U.S. citizen on September 20th, a mere 16 days after the murder of Kathleen. He had been married to 69-year-old Stephanie Bisland for about 5 years. He was a really super guy who loved posting racist things on Facebook, such as, quote, "The black Africans are only this blatant about their racism towards whites because we have all these bleeding heart whites who feel sorry for these savages."
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
Real gem.
classy guy. Once speaking with authorities, it didn't take long for the questioning to turn into a confession. He quickly revealed that he had in fact killed Kathleen at the Marriott and that those were his images, although the reasoning behind the card being found at a busy intersection still remains unknown. Then came some unexpected information. While confessing to the murder of Kathleen, Smith dropped a bomb. In 2018, a year earlier, he had murdered another indigenous Alaskan woman. This was corroborated when he gave them details of where to find the body and gave a positive identification when shown her photo from missing persons cases. Officers followed the directions and they were led straight to another crime scene. It had been about a year and a half, so all that remained was a skull with what was clearly a bullet wound. After running dental records, it was found that those remains belonged to 53-year-old Veronica Abbachuk. She had been reported missing in July of 2017 when she failed to pick up a check. The family quickly grew suspicious and concerned, hence filing the missing persons report. Veronica was a mother and had a large extended family that she loved to cook with. The discovery of her remains brought closure to a family that had been tormented with her disappearance. In late 2018, a body had been discovered and identified as Veronica. It wasn't until fingerprints were run that it was found to have been a misidentification. Veronica's family was crushed to not have an answer, but still held out hope. And this wasn't the first time that the Abbachuk family had dealt with heartbreak, loss, and murder. On September 22, 2005, Martha Toms, who was Veronica's sister, was murdered. Severely beaten and barely alive, Martha was found under a picnic table in Lyons Park, located in the Anchorage neighborhood of Mountain View. She was taken to the hospital where she died from her injuries. Martha was just 35 years old. There have been no arrests, and her case still remains open on the Anchorage Crime Stoppers site. So now the families of these women had answers, or at least the answers as to what happened to their loved ones. They will probably never know the why. Sadly, when it comes to closure and answers, these families remain in the minority. A study conducted by the Urban Indian Health Institute, or UIHI, focusing on the coverage, handling of, reporting, and information sharing regarding crimes against missing and murdered Indigenous women, or MMIW, uncovered an epidemic, especially centered in the Pacific Northwest. While I will definitely be doing more shows in the future around these missing and murdered women, I just wanted to touch on some of the statistics. When it comes to reporting missing American Indian and Alaska Native women and girls, the National Crime Information Center had 5,712 reports for 2016, while for that same year, the Department of Justice Federal Missing Persons Database had only 116 cases listed. According to the CDC, murder is the third leading cause of death among American Indian and Alaska Native women. Reservations can have violence rates up to 10 times that of the national average. There are many factors that come into play when it comes to the lack of accuracy in reporting. Some of those reasons being poor relationships with law enforcement and the AIAN communities. bad record-keeping practices, underreporting, which again has its own array of contributing factors, institutional racism in the media, lacking relationships between AIANs and journalists, and racial misclassification, which, as I read through the report, seemed to be one of the bigger causes, is the inaccurate reporting, whereas someone maybe sees or they find a body and they just decide that person was white, or they decide they were Latin or something, without figuring out that they actually were native. When specifically speaking about Alaska, Anchorage has the third highest number of cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women, with Alaska as a state ranking fourth highest. The UIHI requested the documentation surrounding all of the cases of MMIW from 1940 to present from the Alaska State Troopers. The request was denied, understandably. The UIHI was requesting records from 70 years ago, and so much of that documentation from that time up to 2013 was still in paper form, and that would take so much time to find.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why they denied it, because it would be too much work. Eventually, with the assistance and tenacity of an Alaskan Native tribal leader, the agency offered data from the years 2013 to 2018 because those years had been recorded digitally. That being said, at the time of the report, which I believe came out late last year, late 2018, the data, even from those years that they were promised, has not yet been received. Branching out past Alaska, it was found that 95% of the cases involving MMIW received no media attention. And when a case did get covered, it was found that an overwhelming amount of coverage included language that was victim blaming, mentioned a past with legal troubles, or included language about sex work. It is for this reason I only mentioned that Kathleen received her GED in jail, because she was really proud of her accomplishment and it does deserve to be acknowledged. And I didn't go any further into her or Veronica's past and personal information, because this story is about their life and their unfortunate death, not about anything that might construe what happened to them was a consequence of any kind of lifestyle choice. And as I say that, I didn't look into their life specifically, so I don't know if there was or wasn't anything in their past that was in that realm. So we'll just let them be as they were, which was beautiful, loving women that, as with any other victim, did not deserve the ending to their lives that it received. The fact that this case is, for the most part, solved is also quite uncommon when it comes to MMIW. Speaking of it being basically solved, Brian Stephen Smith was originally charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of tampering with physical evidence. Then, when Veronica's body was discovered, additional charges were brought, including another count of first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree sexual assault, and 3 counts of tampering with physical evidence. There was also a misdemeanor charge brought on, which I know I don't want to say but the complaint alleges sometime between 2017 and 2018 at or near Anchorage, Brian Stephen Smith engaged in sexual penetration of a corpse.
Oh, yeah. I like to hear that. What a sicko. I'm glad there's a charge for it.
Which, again, this is all based off of what he's saying, because they only found her skull. So
it's one of those things you really don't know. That's very hard to know unless they tell you.
Yeah. So just hideous across the board.
Wow.
These charges were just brought, literally, I think 3 weeks ago, and he is currently awaiting trial. So I'm not sure how they've figured having 3 charges of murder for one body, but I'm certainly not mad about it. And from what I read, it seems that because of what was done to Kathleen, as witnessed by her body and the images and videos, it was decided that those actions fell into the category of torture. Mm-hmm. I'm also assuming it was his confession, again, that led to the misdemeanor charge with Veronica. Smith, somehow, some reason, and remains to be seen, pled not guilty and is being held on a $2 million bail.
I feel like there's a lot of legal stuff going on that we're not privy to, because I wonder, what is he originally in jail for, or the case that they were working on that they recognized him from?
Right.
And why is he so willing to give up this information? Like, how much pressure was applied to him?
So I'm wondering, I'm pleading not guilty, even though I literally
So I bet they're
you a
working
body.
on a deal,
Yeah,
is what
for
I'm
sure.
thinking.
I'd be shocked if it actually went to trial.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice when it doesn't just because of the amount of money that goes into
For
it.
sure.
But you want to make sure that the families are happy with that plea as well.
Yeah. And all that being said, his phone was pegged to the locations of the hotel at that time and to the body within that window of when he dumped her body. He had a reservation under his name at that hotel for the same day, and he's on the videos. So, yeah, hopefully it'll just come down that he accepts an offer. And
do you know what Alaska's stance on death penalty is?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because
you want to Google that?
That's definitely aggravated murder, I think. And the torture component is pretty sickening.
I'm not sure if they have a death penalty.
And a lot of our states are turning away from it.
And fun fact, his wife of 5 years is standing by her man.
Of course.
She is sure that he never could have done any of the things he's being accused of.
Even though he's on the video? Has she seen it?
Probably not. But on the video and said, go to this place and find this other body. Oh, here's this body, just like you said, of this person that you said it was.
Okay, I don't know what kind of delusion she's under, but
I feel like that would be so mind-altering and crushing that like you wouldn't be able to process it of like, that's what this person did.
I would think the police would be like, we're going to show you a clip or so you can hear his voice in it.
But also, I really want to know their story because there's such an age difference.
Yeah.
And I want to know if it's a 90-day fiancé thing.
I had to like really think about that when you said her age. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. What'd you find, Josh?
Alaska, as a state, has never had a death penalty.
Okay.
The territorial legislature abolished capital punishment 2 years before Alaska gained statehood.
Interesting.
So I was thinking they didn't have one,
Yeah.
but that's interesting. They never had one.
Oh, I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say there is more.
You can't take long pauses with us.
I felt very brief. Prior to 1899, minors' courts handled legal matters in Alaska. 7 people are estimated to have been executed
I
under
was
that
going to
system.
say, if minors are in charge,
Oh, yeah.
people got
Yeah.
executed for show.
Stole my gold. He
Yeah.
didn't steal my gold.
Yeah.
Kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill both of them.
Then
everybody.
both sides win. All right.
Everybody's happy. When Smith was arraigned, many of Veronica's family members were there in support, some of which wore painted red hands across their mouths to represent the silence felt by Native women, as they didn't need a study to show that there was a disproportionate amount of missing indigenous women that didn't have the coverage or support needed to alleviate the violence in their communities. One family member even said she didn't think that these murders would be the last we would hear from Smith, and I think I kind of maybe agree. You know, if once a year he's done this and he's been here 5 years, was that part of why he's here? Is that why he left South Africa? You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, by the way, he was actually a serial killer. The charges, the closure, the story of these women all comes down to a little SD card and a citizen that had enough curiosity and sense to not only look at it, but to turn it in. If that card had not been found, there is no telling how long it would have taken to piece together what, to authorities, would probably have just felt like just another Native woman's murdered body at the side of the road, to a murder in a hotel, or how many more years Veronica's family would have wondered about her whereabouts. Without his confession, she may have never been found. I look forward to following this case as it moves forward, and I hope that with the proper steps of our justice system, justice is served and these families feel a sense of relief. These stories told today of Alaskan Indigenous women is sadly not an uncommon one. If you are interested in learning more about the information shared today, please visit uihi.org, where you can read the full report and find additional information and resources. And now a brief word from our sponsors.
If there's one thing I've learned as an adult, it's that life can be hard. Whether you're dealing with stress and anxiety, trauma, or mourning the loss of a loved one, it could be helpful to talk to someone about what's going on in your life.
Going to a doctor's office to meet with someone weekly can disrupt your schedule and can be so expensive. Why not make a choice to try something convenient and affordable? Try BetterHelp.
With BetterHelp, you can get help on your own time and at your own pace. Scheduling a session with your counselor is easy and can be done via chat, text, phone, or even a video session to talk face-to-face.
BetterHelp has over 3,000 counselors who are licensed professionals with expertise in multiple topics. You can select what matters to you and be matched up with a counselor that fits your needs.
Listen, we all have something we're going through, so why not get started with BetterHelp today? To make it even more affordable, Murder in the Rain listeners get 10% off their first month with discount code RAIN.
Go to betterhelp.com/rain to fill out a questionnaire to help you get matched with a counselor that you'll love. That's betterhelp.com/rain, RAIN. BetterHelp, because you deserve to be happy. Emily, it's already holiday season. Can you believe this?
I know, it snuck up on us this year.
I am stressing so hard because I never have anything for my guests to do. We all just sit around and look at each other and smile at cat videos, and we just have nothing to do to pass the time.
I think I can help you this year because my struggle has always been last minute shopping. I'm wandering around Target, drinking my latte, going, what the heck am I buying? Auntie Susan, I don't know, especially because I don't have an Auntie Susan. I don't know what to get her.
It's hard to buy for.
Well, this year I decided to do something different and order a board game, and that might be something you could use.
Absolutely. I love board games.
Well, let me tell you about this one. It's called Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, and it's full of murder and intrigue, deduction, and deception. Basically, one person's the murderer, another person's a forensic scientist who holds the key to putting the murderer away, and everyone else has to work together to solve the crime.
That sounds perfect.
Right up our alley, right?
And my family's alley. We love murder.
This year, if you want to make Christmas shopping a little bit easier and have something to do with your friends and family, go to greyfoxgames.com and pick up your copy of Deception, Murder in Hong Kong today.
You can enter murder at the checkout and you'll get 25% off and free shipping. It comes to your door. You don't even have to think about it.
Drink that eggnog, baby.
And play Deception,
Murder in Hong Kong.
And I feel like we haven't given the people enough. The people want more.
The people want more. They always want more.
So how about we just throw in another case on the back end of this?
Let's do it.
Roll that tape, Danny.
Come on, Danny.
So before I begin, there are literally just a few documents on this case, and they don't even all match up. So when it comes to the dates and the facts that I do have, I will make sure I'm very clear on those. However, I'm going to take a little bit, artist licensure here and add some details to just paint more of a picture.
So you're telling us it's half fake?
I'm just making the whole
You're
thing
embellishing.
up. I'm going to just embellish because I don't want to say and then this happened on this day.
Okay.
I just want to be clear going into it off the 4 pieces of paper that exist on this case.
Weave us a tale. Weave
An
it.
old-timey tale.
The Snake River in part of Hell's Canyon is one of my personally favorite places. Formed over millions of years, it is actually the deepest canyon in North America. In fact, it is over 1,000 feet deeper than the Grand Canyon. Hell's Canyon plays the role as the border for Oregon and Idaho in the northeastern part of Oregon. Comprised of 216,981 acres that originally belonged to the Nez Perce tribes in the area, at 72 miles long and at points 10 miles wide, the Hell's Canyon area is a sight to behold. And today we're going back to the 1800s. It's early June 1887. You're in Lewiston, Idaho, or Clarkston, Oregon, depending on what side of the river you're on, and you're looking down Hell's Canyon, admiring the beauty of the Snake River, when you see something in the water. You start to make your way to the object to take a closer look, and you see something else in the water. Once to it, you realize what you saw was a body, and what you're continuing to see are more bodies. And over the next few days, 8 total bodies come floating down the river. That was the case for residents of Lewiston, Idaho that summer. No one knew what had happened to those bodies that came floating ashore, but everyone knew it was something bad. And bad it was. What they were witnessing were the victims of the largest Chinese massacre done by white settlers in American history. These were the victims of the Hell's Canyon Massacre. Before we explore what happened at Deep Creek, we need to take a moment for a history lesson. In the Pacific Northwest, counting San Francisco for this one, there was a huge influx of Chinese during the gold rush. They had heard the tales of gold and wanted in on the action, so thousands of men made deals with gold companies. Pay my way to take a ship 6,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean, and I will be indebted to work for you to pay it off. Taking place in 1887, this was still the Wild West. Only 76 years earlier, the first settlers had come to Oregon in 1811. This led to Oregon statehood in 1859. With the gold rush in full effect, the population of Chinese went from 3,000 in 1870 to 10,000 in 1880. What are they, today's Californians?
Oh boy.
No? This huge influx caused panic among the white settlers. Now stop me if you've heard this before, but there were concerns about violence and safety, frustrations that the white men were losing jobs, which they sort of were due to the fact that the Chinese men were willing to work for much lower wages. And there were also concerns about the Chinese men's lifestyles. See, these were not your typical immigrants. They weren't looking to come to America for a new life, a fresh start. They were coming here to work their asses off for maybe a decade or two, make some good money, then go back home to their families. So they didn't immerse themselves in what was the American culture for the time. This led to the creation of Chinatowns. They happily lived amongst each other, opening businesses, living together in apartments and houses. They helped one another with housing, food, and other needs. It was almost all men, as the restrictions for Chinese women were even more difficult than for the men. So here you had large groups of young, working men living together, gambling, smoking opium, paying for sex workers, and on top of that, they were wearing different clothes, having different hair and skin. These differences and concerns caused the government to step in. I know all of us Oregonians like to think we've always had a happy, hippy-dippy, love-all state, but that's just not the case. When the Oregon Constitution was created in 1859, it included a special section just for the Chinese people. No Chinaman, not a resident of the state at the adoption of this Constitution, shall ever hold any real estate or mining claims, or work any mining claim therein. This meant that if you weren't already in and settled, good luck trying to do so. Interestingly enough, this of course didn't stop the white settlers from using the already established businesses of the Chinese. Some of the first businesses in downtown Portland were Chinese-owned laundry facilities. And there's some pretty cool pictures too of First Street downtown, and the buildings are still there and they're kind of overlapped, and it's like, here are these very first businesses from these Chinese workers. Then, in 1882, the United States Congress upped the ante with the Chinese Exclusion Act, an act that barred Chinese workers from entering the country. Lobbyists used the ideas of this will help quell the violence that is so prevalent on the West Coast. And in fact, it did just the opposite. With tensions rising, the violence towards Chinese became rampant. In September of 1885, a mob in Wyoming attacked and killed 28 Chinese coal miners. Whoa. In Portland, 50 masked men beat workers and destroyed their camps. In Jackson, Oregon, in 1877, armed men surrounded a cabin full of Chinese workers, setting fire to it and shooting at the men as they ran out. In Oregon City, 150 workers at the woolen mill were driven out. From Washington to Northern California, Chinese were hung, shot, beaten, burned, and forced out. In Tacoma, Washington, a mob rounded up Chinese workers and residents on multiple occasions. It didn't help that these acts were supported by the local government officials. Tacoma then became known for being dangerous to Chinese as their mayor, German-born and non-U.S. citizen Jacob Weisbach. Am I saying that right?
Weisbach.
There. And the fire chief.
Weisbach, actually.
And Jacob, is Jacob just Jacob?
It could be Jacob. You don't know.
Okay, so give me full name of Jacob.
Weisbach.
And the fire chief were at the forefront of consent to these attacks. In Oregon, the future governor Sylvester Pennoyer also gave his approval for these actions. However, Portland's mayor and a local judge were strong supporters of the Chinese. They spoke out against the violence and asked for order. Thus, Portland, along with Astoria, became a bit of a haven for the Chinese seeking support and shelter. Portland wanted a strong and diverse community. So all of that kind of makes the Constitution thing like a little bit better. At least we had Portland doing good things.
No wonder they have such a strong Chinatown, too.
Exactly. So back to Lewiston. I spent a month there 1 week. It's a beautiful area, but there isn't a whole lot going on. That's my grampy would always use that. I spent a week there one night, but I did spend a week there 1 month because I didn't have a car.
You're such an old person.
I know.
I love it.
It's a super beautiful area, but there is not a lot going on. It feels a little bit like a city locked in a time capsule. Interestingly, Lewiston is the furthest east seaport, as it is 500 miles from the Pacific. With all the connecting rivers and stories of gold, it wasn't surprising that many Chinese workers wound up in Lewiston. In the fall of 1886, a group of those workers left Lewiston to go up the Snake River and pan for gold. And yes, they went up river. There were pulley systems and pushing systems and just old school tenacity that made it possible for them to fight the current and rapids of a large, fast-moving river to make it the 65 miles where they decided to set up camp, an area known as Deep Creek. Mining for months through the cold winter, they were finding what is called flour gold, flour like the cooking kind, as the gold was powdery. The exact amount is unknown, but for that time it is assumed that they found probably between $4,000 and $5,000 worth of gold. Jumping to 1995, a Wallowa County clerk named Charlotte Macgyver, not Macgyver, Macgyver, but...
Like MacGyver Park?
Yeah. Whoa,
mind blown.
But she is a little bit of a MacGyver because she was cleaning out an old safe that she was going to be getting rid of, and in it she found documents. It wasn't clear if they had been lost or more likely hidden away, but what she found would shine a light on one of the darkest tragedies in Oregon history. In June of 1887, when those bodies started to wash down the river, another group of workers got in their boat and made their way to Deep Creek. Finding bodies in a boat and a scene of blood and battle, they knew something terrible had happened to the group of Chinese men that had gone there months before. Examining the bodies that were pulled out of the water, it was found that most of them had 1 to 2 bullet holes in their heads and backs. Some were missing limbs, and even one looked to be nearly decapitated.
Did they say whether the limbs looked to be from being in the water or like actually?
Isn't that a good question?
Cut off.
That I will get to is why I'm not saying right now.
Okay.
Once historians in 1995 got their hands on the documents from the safe, they were able to sort of piece together a story. This wasn't the story of the death of 10 or so Chinese workers that it was originally thought to be. This was the story of what was the horrific massacre of at least 31, but probably more like 34 Chinese workers.
Wow.
Reading through the grand jury testimony, which was found among the documents in the safe, it was found there had been an 18-year-old man by the name of Frank Vaughn that had not only confessed to partaking in the massacre, but he quickly turned state's evidence and gave up his 5 cohorts. His confession helped in proceeding with arrests, even though he claimed he really only watched everything happen and he didn't really actually participate.
A likely tale.
The men he claimed to have been involved in the massacre were J. Titus Tightly Canfield, who was 21, Robert McMillan, who was only 15, Hezekiah Carl Hughes, who was 37.
Hezekiah Carl.
Yeah, these nicknames. Hiram Maynard, who was 38, and Homer Omar LaRue, whose age was unknown. Some old-time names for you there, Josh.
Those were thrilling. Thank you. I loved them.
15.
15. The ringleader was a man known as B.E. Evans. At 31, he was already known as a bad dude, stealing horses and even believed to be responsible for another murder. Shortly before the massacre, Evans and his right-hand man, Titus Canfield, had heard about one T.J. Douglas. Douglas was a stagecoach robber, and word had gotten out that he had stolen a few bars of gold and buried them. When Evans and Canfield caught up with Douglas, they killed him for that gold. This was in an area that was then named Doug Bar. Doug Bar was used by robbers and thieves to move items across the river to and from Oregon. Neither man was ever charged for the murder of T.J. Douglas.
Did they get him to tell him where they buried the bars before they killed him?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they stumbled upon, this is that embellishment part, picture him just digging, looking around, and he's digging, and he's got these huge gold, and they're like, give us the gold. Because he's a stagecoach robber, because how cool is that?
I think I would like that job. You just lie in wait on the road.
And then they always stop. It's like, just drive into him. Years following the Hells Canyon attack, a former schoolmate of Canfield wrote what he believed to have been the plot of what happened that fateful 25th day in May. His theory was that Canfield had been aware of the Chinese in the area and had learned their movements, where they panned, how long they'd been there, how much gold they would have had by then, so he proposed the idea of robbing them to his friends. He lured his friends to join him by offering a cut of the Douglas gold bars. Once taking the time to make the plan, the 6 men went to a cabin that had once been owned by Douglas and set up camp, all before following through with their devious plan. However, another former classmate and wannabe historian created his own version of what he felt took place. That the group of men were already together attempting to get stolen items across the river before their stolen horses started to drown. Then they came across the camp of men, and in a spur-of-the-moment, give-us-your-boat decision, they attacked and killed them. Either way, Vaughn had given up the names of those responsible, and a grand jury had indicted. This would be the very first murder trial in the brand new Wallowa County. Before trials could proceed, half of the suspects made a run for it. B.E. Evans was arrested but escaped the jail, making his way to Texas for the remainder of his life. 2 more men also fled, leaving only 3 to be held accountable. It was a 2-day trial in that September of 1888. I'm sure the conflicting accounts of how the attack went down or what happened to the workers didn't help. Were they tortured over multiple days? Were they tied up before their limbs were severed with axes and then thrown in the river? Or did their bodies end up that way after 2 weeks of floating downstream in the violent rapids? Either way, it didn't matter. The jury acquitted the 3 men and they walked free. A local rancher, George Craig, who attended the trial, was quoted as saying,
"I guess if they had killed 31 white men, something would have been done about it. But none of the jury knew the Chinamen or cared much about it, so they turned the men loose."
And he was probably right. These charges did not hinder the men's abilities to live full and successful lives. Vaughn remained in Wallowa County, even becoming part of the school board at one point. B.E. Evans, although he had been in Texas since shortly after the deaths, has his name forever etched in stone as part of a pioneer memorial outside the Wallowa County Courthouse. Years later, Robert McMillan's father would share that his son had confessed to participating in the murders.
Whoa.
So much of the information surrounding this case belongs to history, but there are some things that we do know. These young, hardworking men were brutally attacked. Yes, there were 34 to their 6, but they only had 1 gun to their, what I would assume to be at least 6 guns, if not more, depending on how many each of them had. It is thought that some of the Chinese men were up on the cliffside before being shot down, that some were attacked in hand-to-hand combat and finished off with rocks. Whether it was spur of the moment or a premeditated attack, they had no idea it was coming and they were ambushed. Some think that because of the racial climate, the attackers took their time, even up to 2 days, to maim and torture the men before throwing their bodies in the river. I'm leaning more towards the theory that they planned it ahead of time, but that it was quick. These guys were known to be motivated by money, and they had a history of making these kind of horrible, hasty decisions when it came to acquiring more of it. Only a few of the probable 34 bodies were ever recovered. This made it extremely difficult to find the identities. Not only were there tens of thousands of workers in the States from China, they had sort of translated their names into English. When you read a traditional Chinese name in Chinese, you get their family, village, generation, and given name. With the dumbed-down version, you lose all of that. Eventually, historians were able to narrow down that the men killed were from the Guangdong province of southeast China. The only names of victims that are known are Che Po, Che Sun, Che Yao, Che Shun, Che Cheng, Che Ling, Che Chao, Che Lin Chung, Kong Meng Kao, and Kong Nung. In 2012, a memorial was placed at the site of the massacre to honor those who had lost their lives. The area was officially renamed Chinese Massacre Cove. If you are in the Portland area, you can visit the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association to see a museum about the history of the Chinese in Portland and to learn more about this case. If you are in the way northeast corner of Oregon or southeast Washington or way west Idaho, you can check out the Hells Canyon Deep Creek tour and actually see not only the memorial, but some of the structures that the workers built that are still standing. There's a really great OPB special about this, or a book, Massacred for Gold, The Chinese in Hell's Canyon by R. Gregory Noakes, if you would like to dive deeper into this hidden and quite shameful piece of Oregon history.
You know what I'm thinking about right now?
What?
What did they do with their remains? Because that would be an excellent thesis for somebody who is in anthropology. You would learn really quick if they used axes to remove body parts.
Oh, that's true. I think that one of the bodies that they found, because even that is conflicting. One says that like all these bodies came floating down, and another one says like only one or two did. And then these guys found some at the site, but it did say that at least one was buried in an unmarked grave kind of right in that area.
Interesting.
But that would be really cool to pull
yeah,
that up
once
and
they
go, oh
found
yeah,
them,
they were hatcheted.
There's got to be a burial, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And that could be a really cool project.
Oh yeah, how do we get someone? I mean,
just saying it like this, somebody listening is probably a forensic anthropologist wannabe and wants to go to school.
Get approval to do an exhumation and see what
happened.
happened.
You can. You have to go through the hoops. And since it's a historic landmark too, there's probably some extra hoops.
But that would be very interesting.
It would be cool. You could get a lot of answers from their remains if they're there. They may have been cremated due to the time, but
possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would, because I really do think like this group of hooligans heard about these guys that were there for all that time. They're like, oh dang, they've been there, at least 8-9 months at that point. So they probably have this big chunk of change. Let's go check them out for a couple days, and then we'll go down there and take care of it and shoot them and just get it over with. But yeah, it's
how messed up.
Yeah.
We should go to the
all of it.
Historic. Well, yeah, that too, because I'm always down there anyway, driving that highway.
But yes, I really want to go to the museum because the guy that runs it was actually interviewed on the OPB special.
Oh, really?
So he's very well educated on it.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about if they were able to locate all the family, if families.
There was a lady that once they figured out the names, because then they started going through all the records, and then with the laws that were passed, they had people that they then, like, every time if you left at all, you had to redo all your paperwork and take pictures and all that. So they do have those records. They didn't find any records of what they felt were the victims, but this lady basically devoted her life to finding out about these men. And she did find there was something in how the names were done, and I don't know if it was the Chun or the Che that was connecting them. So she actually went to that region and she asked around, and she met all of these elders and, kind of
How cool would it be if we could do some sort of DNA analysis to see if they were related to each other, be able to locate family, because you can now.
Yeah.
If you have access to DNA, but it's probably highly unlikely.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
So she went, and she didn't find anyone directly related, but she found people that she knew she was in the right
From the
area.
village,
and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's sad. And plus it's sad. You think about it. It's like you had all these workers come over, and 34 of them are brutally killed,
and they don't know what happened. Yeah.
And that means that there were a lot of other people that, died of natural causes, murdered for money, gone missing, don't go home. And people are just waiting at home like,
what
okay.
The view at the time of remaining in China, what the view was on those men leaving, if there were rumors about them not returning, what kind of lore there is around that.
My understanding of it was kind of accepted. There was one guy that came and started businesses and made what was equivalent to $1 million.
Probably worth the chance.
And then he went home, and he was this really, really rich. Yeah, he knew where I was going. Is that what you?
Oh,
no, I was
going to say he was this crazy rich guy, and then I realized what I was saying. So he made all this money and went back home. So that was kind of the goal.
So it was a risk, but if it panned out, it was worth the reward.
That's probably where that phrase comes from, huh?
Oh my God! Did we just stumble upon that?
That panned out. Is that a gold rush term?
It's gotta be, right?
Whoa!
It certainly is.
Wow.
I literally only realized that just now.
Actually, I can't confirm that. But it sounds like it.
You're our
you have a computer.
That's literally your only thing we ask of you. Nothing.
And
that is
to
not
record
true.
us.
Yeah.
And to record everything and get our sound
us if we
perfect and
sound
edit
like
us.
idiots. Henry, no, you're about to fall.
Oh, so because of the restrictions with women and stuff, some people did do fake marriages in China to try to be like, oh, here's our paperwork, to try to get some of their spouses over, but it was few and far between. But I found it so interesting.
Tell me more about this opium and sex workers. I am interested in that culture.
I mean,
does that museum cover that, do you think?
Probably.
We've got to go.
I know I want to do that and the Shanghai tunnels. I've never done them.
I've done that. It's
I know you
cool.
did the educational one. I want the
no,
scary one.
I did, you did the ghost
spooky
one. Yeah, I got to pick. It was a work thing, and they let us pick, and I was the only one who cared, so we did the ghost one.
Yeah, I want to do those.
It was cool.
That'd be fun. We could do like a Chinese history day.
It's crazy how prevalent kidnapping men was to force them to work on your ship. And knowing it happened in Oregon was kind of crazy because you just don't, like you said, people are like, oh, it's Oregon, we're liberal, and they do this and that. But we've got a messed up history here with a lot of different races.
Also,
do you even
go out if you're like, hey, so I heard that bar has like a trap door in the ground and you're going to fall in and be taken. Like, okay, I'm going to not go out. I'm going to stay home.
Just the idea of peeing in a trough under the bar, that's a thing, right?
Are we talking about like the gay bar troughs?
No. Well, yeah, but that's a real thing. Back in these old days, they built in troughs to pee in while you were at the bar. There were no bathrooms.
No.
Yes.
You could poop in them too if you wanted to. It's not true.
I don't even understand the physicality of how.
So you're basically drinking at the bar and you just whip it out and pee underneath the bar because women weren't in there except for sex workers. It's a real thing.
The visual of the
still
cycle
have one building with the original trough
was like a cycle of just a dude sitting there drinking while urinating.
What else is there to do?
Oh, that's so gross. What is wrong with boys? No one walked in and was like, this seems kind of gross. Everyone's like, what a brilliant idea. What a dream. We don't even have to walk away from the bar.
My nachos don't need to get cold, even though
those
weren't a thing. My beans and ham hock.
These mozzarella sticks are becoming quite frigid.
I'm so glad I could sit here and enjoy my frickles while I urinate at the bar.
Oh, Henry.
You guys nailed it on the pan out definition.
Guesses. Yeah.
Yep. The phrase comes from prospectors whose method of extracting gold from streams was called panning.
Did you ever? Well, you probably did. You probably didn't because you're in California.
I did. My favorite
Pioneer
day
days?
of the year. Pioneer days.
I've sifted some gold. I've panned out some stuff.
Did you dress up? Did you turn butter?
I mean, we would have Pioneer days,
we
like
would
Oregon Trail days.
You couldn't talk in your nuanced nowadays talk.
Okay, we didn't go that far.
I'm kidding. I'm making that up. That's just my dream for how it should be.
And they had like all the pelts.
Like
medieval. You could pet all the pelts.
Chloe did it recently, and Alisha was there to help her get dressed that morning.
Pelt petting.
Yeah, some pelt petting.
Is that on the brochure? First thing listed.
Yeah, because they talk about the like beaver pelt exchange and
yep. Feels good.
How it was more lucrative than other types of pelts. Actually, have you guys ever been to Fort Vancouver?
Yes.
Yeah. Very spooky.
Well, I've just for 4th of July.
So I got to go in college because I was an archaeology major, and we do a day there that was similar. It was fun. Good time.
Digging?
No, we weren't digging there. Looking and talking to other archaeologists. But I did do a dig here in Oregon.
Sanctioned?
No, it was actually for dead bodies.
Yeah, we were hiding bodies.
No, we were turning a former fort into a park so that they can do reenactments and have tours.
That seems like a terrible exchange. I'd rather go play on a fort than watch a reenactment in a field.
I would rather die than see any sort of reenactment.
So it's pretty cool. So you know where Spirit Mountain Casino is?
Sure do.
Across the highway, there is a fort that was used to keep Native Americans and whites away from each other so that there was no conflict between the groups. So it was an all-male fort, okay? Except for 2 of the higher rank had their wives on the premises. Other than that, no women allowed.
And wait, so the fort was for the white man or the natives?
It was there to help regulate the area.
Okay.
So they were playing like, peacekeeper between the 2 groups
Gotcha.
to keep us neutral.
It was escrow.
It was pretty cool. So here's the mind-blowing thing. So I was put in this pit up at the top of the hill, and my teacher kept saying, keep going, I found nothing. I mean, maybe 3 nails. Finally, I get to a boot, like a intact boot, eyelets and everything. It was female. So it belonged to one of those 2 women.
That's cool.
It was so cool, but you watch it disintegrate when it hits the air. I dug it as fast as I could and sketched it, and we tried to move it to preserve it, but all that's left is the steel toe.
For real?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how archaeology is, but we
bananas
got
and
pictures and everything. And I mean, there's a little bit of it left. Maybe the heel and the toe are left.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's what I said.
I know.
Alisha,
right, well,
have you ever found a boot?
People aren't quite so quick to pass over an SD card. An
STD card.
People aren't quite so quick to pack. Oh boy.
You want that thumb? Here's my thumb.
Woo!
It's long.
With police agency, quote, I'm not a but this was why did I put corroborate? Corroborate. Okay. Veronica was a mother and had a large extended family that she loved. I got stuck in my own mouth.
Me too.
As they didn't need a study to show that there was a
Where is your phone? Oh, I can go get it.
Ew.
How bad is it?
It's, I mean,
Oniony?
it's
Garlicky?
You guys.
It's oniony, but it's more, it's like a 3. It's like a oof. I'm not fresh, but it's not like a oof.
I have it in my bathroom.
My bathroom.
My bathroom.
My bathroom.
Yeah, I think who lost sunglasses? Did I lose my
I
sunglasses?
did. Remember?
You did.
And
I
they
was
yelled
with
at
you.
me. So we go to the booth. They said, don't do that. And I had them on the top of my head. They slid off the back into the goat pen or something.
No, a gorilla.
And they eat him right away.
So we go up because I'm concerned and I want to tell them, I don't want them. I just don't want the animal to eat them. And she got mad at me, what do you think we're going to do? Get them back for you?
Yeah, she's literally I just don't want it to eat plastic.
I don't want the gorilla looking cooler than me.
Mostly.
Just to be clear, it wasn't a gorilla.
It was it was something.
A goat or something.
It was
one.
more
Goat-rilla.
Yes.
Sci-fi original.
The zoo there is so
copywritten.
progressive.
Also, why isn't there a sunglasses app?
But
you hold the phone in front of your face.
Weddings, you'll get them. I do. I don't wear those though. Ew.
They're free.
Wow.
And then you can sit on them and throw them at
Yes.
gorillas if you want.
Exactly.
Dump a whole box of them.
There's something happened last time and it sounded really great for everybody.
She's talking to me through a cup on a string through our windows because we're next door neighbor kids growing up together in the 1950s.
And we read all the Hardy Boys books and now we're trying to solve crimes
exactly.
together.
See, save way. We're
on the same wavelength.
Yeah, it's like we're underwater or in the tin can.
Are you understanding that what we're saying, or do you need more metaphor?
Please stop elaborating.
It's like I'm wearing an astronaut helmet, but I'm under a pile of Nickelodeon slime. Oh my god! That's what he said.
How's that? That sounds good to me. Does it still sound weird?
No, but that was a very
no.
announcer voice of you.
It sounds good to me. Is it?
Sounds good to me.
It sounds good.
Sounds real good.
And I'm determined to go to a specialist.
And they're going to think you're a hypochondriac because of the list of items.
I don't have a list.
Barking seal cough.
Yeah.
Constant nasal drip.
It's connected. That's what let me finish is I want to go to an ear, nose, throat person, which I've never been to.
Herpes.
And be like, well, that's separate. Like a what do people say when
a
it's
deviated septum?
I didn't have to get a nose job, but I did have a deviated septum.
I had a deviated septum, so that I got a nose job to cure it.
The eye socket lobotomy tools.
Oh, yeah.
But in my nose. That's what I feel like.
Like how they would pull out brains in
Yeah.
Egyptian times through the nasal cavity.
I fantasize about that because that's what it feels like all the time. It's just pressure.
I could play around in there.
Okay.
Get me a little one of those hooks that you would make those carpets out of in 3rd grade.
Yes. We could turn on a light since we're in a home.
But he likes using the flashlight app.
It's really cool. Do you guys know I have a flashlight on my phone? What would your titty say if it
My titty
could
would
say
say,
something?
I don't want to say it on the air.
Please, someone grab me.
Exactly.
Give it a lick.
Give me a twist,
Please give me a little hand hug.
sir. Can I have another twist?
It's just a wee little.
A wee little twist.
We don't even
some
have to have
buggery.
buggery. Just a wee little titty twist.
Please. I have a friend who doesn't have a belly button. But a picture, an artwork of how your belly button has aged over time, you wouldn't like that? What if you had a lover who
What
do?
if I
just
did?
so
I do.
Okay, so your lover, you're
Yes.
just
Yeah.
so into him, and then he goes, I have this fetish,
Right.
and I can't be with someone unless they help me fulfill it.
Okay.
And it involves your belly button,
What does it involve?
his fingers, his tongue, and his penis.
Literally 99% of everything else that you want to talk about, we can talk about. But that's...
Good to know. So you can't be in a relationship with her parents, and you can't eat out her belly button.
It's just nothing.
Good to know those friendship boundaries.
It just, like, what's on the other side? Just your intestines, and they're just hanging out, and they're just there. And
There's a muscle wall there.
No,
There's a strong muscle wall
Yeah,
there.
hernia central.
And then, like, if you touch it, and then it, like, no.
No, I don't. I mean, everything. I think.
Yeah, he's a
I really
germaphobe.
grossed out by most gross things. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Dreadlocks.
Hell's Canyon plays the role as the borders for Oregon and Idaho in the northeastern part of Oregon.
Arnigan.
Before we explore what happened at Deep Creep. Let's see. Wait, 87 minus 11 is 76.
Close, but nice try. It was like what they teach the
Amir.
kids now to make a guess.
Oh, you were being mean. Drugs are a serious problem, Alisha, in this country, especially heroin.
Mining for months through the cold winter, they were
I get free dinner from my parents tonight, though.
Usually they charge you.
I really wanted that to end with, like, from my sugar daddy.
I wish.
Murder in the Rain is produced and edited by Josh McCullough. Written and hosted by Emily Rowney and Alisha Holland. Artwork by Jamie Costa. Music by Kai Pfeiffer at kyfifer.com. Check out our website, murderintherain.com, for additional information on all cases, a fun interactive map, and be sure to subscribe so you can receive our newsletter. Check out the Mad Props page for coupon codes from some of our sponsors. We love your reviews and seeing them on all streaming platforms, especially iTunes. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And suck my balls.
Please put that in. Check out what we're listening to this week.
Hello, everyone. Let me tell you about the Apple for the Teacher podcast. I'm Anna Thomas, a teacher and your host. So you're probably thinking it's about reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? Well, think again. It's a fresh take on true crime, where you wouldn't expect to find true crime. In schools. Yes, schools. You will hear tragic stories about murder, abduction, school bus hijack, student disappearance, suicide, kidnap and ransom, a school camp tragedy, the list goes on. So if you're looking for something a little different in the true crime genre, then Apple for the Teacher is for you. So join me as I present the bad apples. But until then, remember to be a good apple.